ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਦੇ ਉੱਘੇ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਰੀਓਪਨਿੰਗ ਤੇ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਨਾਲ ਨਜਿੱਠਣ ਲਈ ਸੰਤੁਲਿਤ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਅਪਣਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਸਮਾਂ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਡਾਕਟਰ ਕਿਰਨ ਮੋਰ ਨੇ ਆਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਵਾਇਰਸ ਨਾਲ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਸਿੱਖਣਾ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ। ਸੋਮਵਾਰ ਤੋਂ ਲਾਗੂ ਹੋਣ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਨਵੇਂ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਹੈਲਥ ਮਾਪਦੰਡਾਂ ਦਾ ਐਲਾਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਮੂਰ ਨੇ ਆਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਸਮਝਣਾ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਓਮਿਕਰੋਨ ਵਰਗੇ ਖਤਰੇ ਨੂੰ ਜੜ ਤੋਂ ਖਤਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ। ਪਿਛਲੇ 2 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀਆਂ ਡਰ ਦੇ ਸਾਏ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਿਕਲ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਹਨ ਤੇ ਵਾਇਰਸ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਨਿਯੰਤਰਣ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਲਈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੀ ਸੋਚ ਹੀ ਬਦਲਣੀ ਹੋਵੇਗੀ।
And this past week, our average percent positivity of tests is 18.41% compared to the previous week when it was 22%. Based on the current stabilization in Ontario's testing strategy, this is likely reflective of a real decline. Because of your extraordinary efforts to help blunt the transmission of Omicron and protect our health system capacity, we can gradually begin easing public health measures on Monday, January 31st, while still keeping up with the measures that are helping reduce transmission. This means that on Monday, we in Ontario will increase social gathering limits to 10 people indoors and 25 people outdoors, allow 50% capacity for most indoor public settings, such as restaurants, casinos, cinemas, with proof of vaccination, allow 50% capacity or 500 people, whichever is less, for spectator capacity in sporting events, concert venues, and theaters. And the 50% capacity will also include religious services, rites, or ceremonies. While this is positive news, we must remain vigilant in the face of this virus, and our continued reopening efforts must be implemented cautiously. This does not mean all hospitals will immediately resume the surgical and procedural activities permitted, and we are working with Ontario Health and the sector on this first step with additional details to be provided in the coming days. Once again, I want to thank Ontarians for the sacrifices you have made, not only in these past weeks, but over the last 2 years. January 25th marked the 2-year anniversary of the first case of COVID-19 identified in Ontario and in Canada. These last 24 months have been difficult and stressful for too many families, marked by tragedy and loss. All of this can take a toll on our mental health and well-being. And while Bell's Let's Talk Day may have been yesterday, let's keep the conversation going every day. Check in on your neighbors, your friends, and your family. And if you need help, do not hesitate to reach out and ask for it, whether it is for loved ones or from one of the many mental health resources in the province. Practicing self-care and staying connected has never been more important. Thank you. Merci.
ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਐਮਪੀ ਸਪੀਅਰੇ ਪੋਲੀਵਰ ਅਤੇ ਬ੍ਰੈਡ ਵੀਸ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਕੌਕਸ ਦੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਪੱਤਰਕਾਰਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਖੇਪ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ। ਇਸ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਟਰੱਕਰਸ ਦੇ ਉਸ ਕਾਫਲੇ ਤੇ ਟਿੱਪਣੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਜੋ ਸੰਘੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਟੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਆਦੇਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿਰੋਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਓਟਵਾ ਵੱਲ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫੇਰ ਦੇਸ਼ ਅੰਦਰ ਵਧ ਰਹੀ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਕਾਰਨ ਟਰੂਡੋ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਘੇਰਿਆ।
When there's a left-wing protest on Parliament Hill, we don't see the liberal media going through every single name of the people who attends to try and find one person that they can disparage the whole group with. We don't see CBC, for example, has been accused by its own employees of systemic racism, and yet we don't see the media here generalize that everyone who works at the CBC is a racist. Whenever you have 5 or 10,000 people who are part of any group, you're bound to have a number who have or say unacceptable things, and they should be individually responsible for the things they say and do. But that doesn't mean we disparage the thousands of hard-working, law-abiding, and peaceful truckers who quite frankly have kept all of you alive the last 2 years by filling your grocery shelves with the food that you eat and filling your homes with the products that you rely upon. So I think that it is possible to hold individually responsible anyone who says or does anything unacceptable, while showing support for the hardworking, law-abiding, peace-loving truckers who are fighting for their freedom and their livelihoods, and on whom we have depended for our very existence over the last 2 years.
We're well, the meeting's still going on and things are looking good and we got a lot of work to do. We have barely had any parliament in 6 months. We got to get focused on the things that Canadians care about, right? Like, we got to talk about inflation, the cost of housing. Man, like, my assessment in my neighborhood in Abbotsford went up 46%. How does a young graduate afford a house today? How does someone that makes a 6-figure income afford a house today? Right. The Canadian dream is being taken away by a lot of young people. And if Parliament's not focused on that, I think we're going to be debating C8 next week. That's what all Canadians want us to be talking about. How the government spending, a third of which outlined by the Parliamentary Budget Officer, has nothing to do with COVID. What's the impact on our long-term finances and the well-being of Canadians who are going to be left to pay that debt in the future? Those are the questions that need to be answered right now, and that's what the Conservative Party is focusing on.
And obviously top of mind.
ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਜਸਟਿਨ ਟਰੂਡੋ ਨੇ ਵਰਚੁਅਲ ਤੌਰ ਉੱਤੇ ਲਿਬਰਲ ਸੰਸਦ ਮੈਂਬਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਬੋਧਨ ਕੀਤਾ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸੰਸਦ ਮੈਂਬਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਭਰੋਸਾ ਦਿਵਾਇਆ ਕਿ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨਸ ਦੀ ਸਿਹਤ, ਆਰਥਿਕਤਾ ਅਤੇ ਆਜ਼ਾਦੀ ਦੀ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਲਈ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਟੀਕਾਕਰਨ ਕਰਵਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਉਤਸ਼ਾਹਿਤ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਉਹ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਨ। ਜ਼ਿਕਰਯੋਗ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਐਕਸਪੋਜ਼ਰ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਜਸਟਿਨ ਟਰੂਡੋ ਨੇ ਖੁਦ ਨੂੰ ਆਈਸੋਲੇਟ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਹੈਲਥ ਗਾਈਡਲਾਈਨਸ ਦੀ ਪਾਲਣਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ।
For moms and dads supporting their families, for nurses, doctors, and frontline workers keeping us safe, for truckers and farmers who put food on our tables, for people across the country making sacrifices every single day, for the millions of Canadians who got vaccinated and who are getting their booster shots. This Liberal team is doing everything to encourage people to get vaccinated, because vaccines are the best protection, not just for our health, but for our economy and our freedoms. We're ready to keep standing up to politicians like Erin O'Toole, who think we should do less to encourage vaccination and less to support families, workers, and small businesses. The Conservative Party still doesn't get that the best thing we can do for our economy is to get past this pandemic. That's how we put lockdowns behind us. That's how we keep our supply chains moving. And that's how we secure an even stronger economic recovery. Canadians know that our government has their backs. We'll keep working together to lead the world on vaccination and to lead our peers on the jobs recovery. This Liberal team is ready to fight harder than ever to build a stronger and more resilient Canada. Families know that we're here to fight for them. Just this week, we announced a childcare agreement with Nunavut. This was the 12th childcare agreement signed with provinces and territories. These agreements will save families across the country thousands of dollars, with many families in many parts of the country already seeing those savings. We're focusing on making life more affordable for the middle class and for people working hard to join it. And that includes making housing more affordable too. Last week, we announced that we'll exceed our initial target of creating 10,000 new units for vulnerable people with the Rapid Housing Initiative. And we'll continue to put measures forward that increase housing supply and support Canadians who are looking to buy their first home and build their future.
ਬੈਂਕ ਆਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਵਿਆਜ ਦਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਵਾਧਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ, ਪਰ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੈਂਕ ਨੇ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਨੂੰ ਠੱਲ ਪਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਵਿਆਜ ਦਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਾਧਾ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਚੇਤਾਵਨੀ ਦਿੱਤੀ। ਸੈਂਟਰਲ ਬੈਂਕ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਮਾਰਚ ਤੋਂ ਵਿਆਜ ਦਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਾਧਾ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾਣ ਦੀ ਸੰਭਾਵਨਾ ਹੈ। ਬੈਂਕ ਆਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਨੇ ਆਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਸੂਚਕ ਅੰਕ ਦਰਸਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ ਕਿ ਅਰਥਚਾਰਾ ਲੀਹ ਉੱਤੇ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ।
First, the emergency monetary measures needed to support the economy through the pandemic are no longer required, and they have ended. Second, interest rates need to increase to control inflation. Canadians should expect a rising path for interest rates. And third, while reopening an economy after repeated waves of COVID is complicated, Canadians can be confident that the Bank of Canada will control inflation. We are committed to bringing inflation back to target. Let me take each of these in turn. The bank's response to the pandemic has been forceful. Throughout, our actions have been guided by our mandate. We have been resolute and deliberate, communicating clearly with Canadians on our extraordinary measures to support the economy and on the conditions for their exit. When we introduced emergency liquidity measures to support core funding markets, we said they would end when market functioning was restored. And they did. When we launched quantitative easing, we said it would continue until the recovery was well underway. And as the recovery progressed, we began tapering QE and ended it in October. Today marks the final step in exiting from emergency policies. We said exceptional forward guidance would continue until slack was absorbed. With the strength of the recovery through the second half of 2021, the Governing Council now judges this condition has been met. As such, we are removing our commitment to hold our policy rate at its floor of 0.25%. Second, we want to clearly signal that we expect interest rates will need to increase. A lot of factors are contributing to the uncomfortably high inflation we are experiencing today, and many of these are global, and they reflect the unique circumstances of the pandemic. As the pandemic fades, conditions will normalize and inflation will come down.
ਸਰੀ ਟੀਚਰਸ ਐਸੋਸੀਏਸ਼ਨ ਸਰੀ ਦੇ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਸਕੂਲਾਂ ਦੇ 5800 ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਟੀਚਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਨੁਮਾਇੰਦਗੀ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਐਸੋਸੀਏਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਮੁਖੀ ਦੀ ਵਾਗਡੋਰ ਆਮ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਮੁੱਖ ਧਾਰਾ ਭਾਈਚਾਰੇ ਦੇ ਵਿਅਕਤੀਆਂ ਕੋਲ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਪਰ 1974 ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਮੁਖੀ ਇੱਕ ਸਿਆਹ ਰੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਬਣੇ ਸਨ ਅਤੇ ਐਸੋਸੀਏਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ 81 ਸਾਲਾ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁਣ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰ ਇੱਕ ਰੰਗਦਾਰ ਭਾਈਚਾਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਬੰਧਿਤ ਔਰਤ ਜਤਿੰਦਰ ਬੀਰ ਇਸ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਬਣੀ ਹੈ।
Well, I'm really excited. बहुत खुश. I'm very, very happy. This is a really great opportunity. It comes with a lot of struggles and hard work, but it's about time, and I'm thankful for the Surrey Teachers Association to have elected me in this role. Yeah, I think it is a very important step in the right direction. We have lots of South Asians, Punjabi folks in different professions, and leadership in schools we're still working on that. We still want to see more leadership, administrative leadership, senior management leadership, superintendent leadership. And so this is another role in leadership that I'm hoping that more and more people look like me that can lead, because we do have diverse perspectives, and it's important that our voices also count. So, मेरा birth India, मेरे parents ਪਿੰਡ ਸਾਰੋਬਾਦ ਹੁਸ਼ਿਆਰਪੁਰ ਦੇ ਨੇੜੇ ਆ। ਮੇਰਾ ਡੈਡੀ already ਇੱਥੇ ਹੈਗਾ ਸੀ। ਮਮ ਦਾ ਮੇਰਾ brother 1974 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ immigrant ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ Canada ਦੇ ਆਏ ਸੀ। And I remember as a child, mom and dad did double jobs, everything, and mom used to come off of night shift, get us ready to go to school and to give us all those opportunities. And the most important thing that they always said was, go to school, finish school. It gives us opportunities. And so I have seen their struggles as immigrants. We have gone through those struggles as immigrants. Jada Mashoti si, we never saw people of color in classrooms. I think I maybe one or two teachers in the system when I grew up. I've always lived in Surrey, gone to school in Surrey, and so things have changed a lot, except leadership is still not reflected in that. And so ultimately I think it's about seva. It's seva to people, it's seva to my community. I get nothing out of this, but I hope that others will be able to see themselves, and hopefully they'll also join in leadership roles, because like I said, it is important.